and to have a world party on the day you came to be. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Welcome, friends. So sorry for the mix-up. That was my fault because I was looking for the perfect music to celebrate the birthday of the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Today is his official birthday, but we celebrate it all over this country on Monday. So schools will be closed, state buildings will be closed, federal buildings will be closed, and people will still be out and volunteering either virtually or in person with proper social distancing and a mask. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. So, happy birthday, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Hello, Jocelyn. I'm so glad that you are here. Well, my friends, again, I apologize for my tardiness. Apparently, when you're doing this whole streaming thing, some platforms, they say, if you are not on in time, we will delete your broadcast, which is what they did to me today while I was on. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, let me find the music. I gotta find music for my books. I gotta find music. So that was the reason why I was tardy. But with all of that aside, we are here today together. Happy birthday to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We know that his contributions to this country were great and they still live on today. And one of the books that we will be reading will be about his famous speech. So it is Fabulous FRI-YAY here in Philadelphia. Students had a half day of school and probably in other places as well. And even if you didn't, today is the end of the week. There's no school during the weekend. So hopefully you have a good weekend scheduled for yourself of rest and relaxation and maybe doing a little helping in your community in a way that you can do it safely and with proper social distancing and of course wearing your mask, okay? And making sure you keep your hands sanitized and clean and things like that. So hopefully you will be doing that. Here in Philadelphia, there are people who will, in organizations, who will be celebrating the Martin Luther King Day of Service here in Philadelphia. They know what it's called. It is called the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. Okay. It is celebrated in a big way here. There are hundreds of people in many organizations that have events and volunteer opportunities. People are making art. People are giving away food. People are making care packages. It's all kinds of stuff that goes on. Unfortunately, this year, it won't be able to be done to the magnitude that it's usually done. But there are organizations who are like, there ain't no pandemic that's going to stop us from celebrating and living out the legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So they have worked to find ways to do it in a safe way to keep all the volunteers and everyone who wants to participate safe. There are concerts and performances going on virtually to celebrate his birthday. and to celebrate what he believed in, which is that everyone should be seen as equal. Okay? Now, let us get to the books. Before we do that, as you can see, oh, I'm sorry, I put the wrong thing up there, my bad. But it's for the same purpose. As you could see, let's give the disclaimer now before we get to the books. So, the books that you will see here on Miss Hope's Reading Hour, any music that you hear, Miss Hope's Reading Hour does not own any of the rights to it. No rights to it. But it is here for your listening and the books for your reading enjoyment. Okay? Now, my friends, let us get to the books. Let us get to the books. Oh, I just lost my music. What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? All right, there we go. So, as I told you before, we have our two books here that you may have seen in the teaser, especially before it was deleted on Facebook because I didn't start on time for looking for music. All right, so our first book, as I told you, is about Martin Luther King Jr. It is called Dream March. Dream March. This book is by Vonda Michaud Nelson, illustrated by Sally Verne Comport. And this is a scholastic book. Dream March. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington. We will be reading that book today. And also, I got this book care of my friend Miss Eileen. And this book is really cute and it drives home Dr. King's idea of all of us being special and equal, and that we should not only like ourselves, but love ourselves. This one is called I Like Myself. This book is by Karen Beaumont, illustrated by David Catrow. I like myself. She is so happy. I love the look on her face. And of course, my friends, you know we got to get to it, right? Because there are some developments that have happened the last time we were reading from the book, okay? Who Stole New Year's Eve? I told you. Another great children's chapter book author, Martha Freeman. Who Stole New Year's Eve? A Chickadee Court mystery, a holiday house book. We will get to what happened the last time when it's chapter book time, okay? I was like, wait a minute, what? You'll find out when we get to it, okay? All right, my friends. Let us get to Dream March by Vonda Michaud Nelson, a scholastic book. And I love the illustrations in this book too. They're really good. They look kind of like paper, watercolor, like this. I'm an artist, so I'm always looking at the colors and all the lines and things. Let's get to the book. Let me focus. All right, Dream March. Everybody has dreams. Some we share with family and friends. Some we hold in our hearts. On August 28th, 1963, one man's dream was heard across the nation. When the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a boy, Growing up in Georgia, he could not have imagined a day like this. Look at all those people. People traveled from all over the country to Washington, D.C. They rode buses, trains, airplanes, and cars. Some walked over 200 miles from Brooklyn, New York. One man rolled 698 miles from Chicago on skates. It took him 10 days. Wow. Can you imagine how important that day was to him? Over 250,000 people gathered in the nation's capital. Singers, authors, actors, government officials, and other famous people attended. But ordinary citizens were the real stars of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. People packed the National Mall from the Washington Monument to the Lincoln Memorial, young and old of every color, side by side, hand in hand. Many wore their Sunday's best. They carried signs. They sang, "I woke up this morning with my mind set on freedom. We shall overcome someday." Black people fought for many years for the right to be treated with respect. In the 1950s and 1960s, Black Americans organized and fought extra hard. Their fight was called the Civil Rights Movement. Martin and others held peaceful protests against laws that kept Black people and white people apart. They fought for the right to attend the same schools and eat in the same restaurants. They fought to use the same bathrooms and drink from the same water fountains. They fought to sit on any empty bus seat and to have the same chance at a job. They fought for the right to vote. The protesters won some battles, and new laws made things better. But Black people were still treated unfairly. In 1963, A. Philip Randolph and Bayard Rustin and other civil rights leaders decided to take the fight to the nation's center of power, Washington, D.C. The march organizers wanted to show President John F. Kennedy, Congress, and all Americans how many people believed in this cause. The Declaration of Independence says all men are created equal. The marchers wanted Congress to make sure everyone was treated that way. United, they walked together. Some were silent, determined, and intent, yet hopeful. Most chanted and sang, beaming, joyful, their hearts light. The marchers crowded the mall's reflecting pool. Some took off their shoes and socks to soothe their feet in the cool water. Others climbed trees for a better view. Lucky children perched high on shoulders. They looked toward the statue of Abraham Lincoln. It had been 100 years since President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which helped free the slaves. Why were Black Americans not yet free? That is a good question to ask after 100 years. President Kennedy and other officials worried that the marchers might become violent. Thousands of police and soldiers were called out to keep order. There was no need. The March on Washington was the largest human rights rally in American history, and there was no trouble. Martin had one of the strongest voices for civil rights. He had been jailed for standing up for Black people. His house was firebombed by people who wanted him to stop. But he did not scare easily. Martin was a minister. He had faith, and wow, could he preach. When Martin spoke, it was as if he could read the minds of the people and feel what was in their hearts. Other leaders gave inspiring speeches at the march, but Martin's words on that hot August day made history. In his speech, Martin said Black people were tired of waiting for their rights. He said, now is the time for justice. Now is the time for brotherhood. He said, no one is free until everyone is free. Martin spoke forcefully, with grace and dignity. His friend Mahalia Jackson, the gospel singer, called out, "Tell them about the dream, Martin." He put aside his written words. That means he started speaking not just from what he wrote, but from his heart. "I have a dream," Martin said, "that little Black boys and Black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers." Martin had a dream that his children would live in a country where they would not be judged by their skin color, but by the content of their character. And the content of someone's character has no color. Martin had a dream that when his children sang, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty," the words ring true for everyone. He spoke of faith and truth, love and hope. Finally, Martin said, his voice like thunder, "Let freedom ring from every hill and every mountainside, from every state and every city. Let freedom ring. And if we do, people of all colors and all faiths will join hands and sing, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last." Marchers cheered and cheered. Some wept with tears of pride, joy, and hope. They would never forget this day. Many who had been strangers before the walk were forever bonded by that moment in time. People all over the country watched the march on television and listened on the radio. They felt the spirit of the day too. They were reminded that all people are meant to be free. Martin's dream wasn't his alone. It was a dream millions of Americans shared. Now his dream lives forever in the hearts and minds of people everywhere. And the march for freedom goes on. Author's note. 10 months later, on July 2nd, 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act into law. It is unclear whether the March on Washington brought about the passing of this bill, but it was a step forward in the civil rights movement in America. The end. I never get tired of hearing about the March on Washington. I wish I was able to be there. I mean, when you think of all of those people, when you see the videos of all of those people, it seemed like more than 250,000 people. It seemed like way more people than that. Then all around that reflecting pool, everyone there to hear those words of hope and freedom. Amazing. So I work at a school in West Philadelphia, and it is near a triangle. I don't know exactly what you would call it in traffic terms, but I think it's called a triangle, actually. And there is what they call a bust, which is usually a statue that is just from here up. It's just the shoulders, like the chest and the shoulders and the head. And that's what the statue is. It's not the whole body. And it is a bust of Martin Luther King Jr. because I don't remember what year it was, because I didn't even know about this until I started working at this school. And I passed by and I was like, I think I asked my boss, I was like, there's a bust of Martin Luther King Jr. on the triangle. And he was like, oh yeah, because there was a time when he came to Philadelphia and he spoke right in that place where that bust is. And there are pictures of when he spoke there. And if you saw the pictures of the mall in Washington, where the reflecting pool is, and you saw all those people, it had to be just about as many people there, just in that triangle. Oh, Miss Brandy. Yes. I'm telling you, that triangle where the little hoagie place is, you know what I'm talking about. Not far from the little market. I'm not going to say the streets because, safety reasons. But yes, Miss Brandy, and welcome. So glad that you're here with us today. Yes, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. came to West Philly and spoke to Philadelphians, and it was packed, y'all. Okay. I saw the picture and I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, you can't help but wish that you were there, especially when you hear videos and recordings of how he spoke and how passionate he was, not just about Black Americans, but just everyone being treated equally, everyone knowing that they are valuable. Like, you're valuable to me, and I'm valuable to you, and we're valuable to life together in this country. Because if we come together, things will be better for everybody. Not just one group, not just one person, not just rich or poor, but everybody. When we come together and work together and love each other. No wonder his legacy still lives on, and people are still fighting for that to become the overall reality, that we are all loved, created by God, valuable, deserve freedom, and deserve opportunity. Everyone, from the youngest to the oldest, from the shortest to the tallest, from the darkest to the lightest, everyone, and not even just in this country, but all around the world. You can't tell me that's not a good dream. That is the dream. Not just a good one, but the ultimate dream. Well, my friends, because I could sit and talk about that all day. So now let us get to I like myself, okay? Because when you think about it, sometimes when people try to make you feel like you're not good enough or you're not worthy of having good things, it can make you feel bad about yourself. It really can. When you're in school, and let's just say you don't have the clothes that everyone else has, and someone says something like, oh, look at your clothes. Oh, they're not the latest thing. Or look at your hair. It's not straight and long. Why do you wear your hair like that? That can make someone feel bad about themselves. But we have to learn that regardless of how our hair is, which I love my natural hair, okay, no matter how we look, no matter what we wear or what we have, we are valuable and we are loved. We are amazing and we ought to like ourselves. Okay? Let us get into this book. I Like Myself by Karen Beaumont. Oh, yeah. Who makes this book? This is a Houghton Mifflin Harcourt book. I like myself. I'm glad I'm me. I know that's right. There's no one else I'd rather be. I like my eyes, my ears, my nose. I like my fingers and my toes. I like me wild. I like me tame. I like me different and the same. I like me fast. I like me slow. I like me everywhere I go. I like me on the inside too, for all I think and say and do. Oh, wow, look at that inside. Inside, outside, upside down, from head to toe and all around. I like it all. It all is me. And me is all I want to be. And I don't care in any way what someone else may think or say. Why should I care? Okay. I may be called a silly nut or crazy cuckoo bird. So what? I'm having too much fun, you see, for anything to bother me. Even when I look a mess, I still don't like me any less. 'Cause nothing in this world, can change what's deep inside. And so, oh, look at that here. No matter if they stop and stare, no person ever, anywhere, can make me feel that what they see is all there really is to me. I'd still like me with fleas or warts, or with a silly snout that snorts, or knobby knees, or hippo hips, or purple polka dotted lips, or beaver breath, or stinky toes, or horns protruding from my nose, or yikes with spikes all down my spine, or hair that's like a porcupine. I still would be the same, you see. I don't know. I like myself because I'm me. The end. I like myself, okay? That was a great story. You know, and I'm so glad it said something about who you are inside. All this stuff on the outside, your hair, your skin, and all that stuff. I mean, you could be the most beautiful person in the world. You could be the most grotesque looking person in the world. But what matters is what's in here, what's inside. Because even if you look different, we're all basically the same inside, right? We all love people. We all grunt or cry or maybe say things we're not supposed to when we stub our toe. We all cry. We are all happy when we see snacks. We all laugh at things that are funny. Sometimes we laugh at the same things that are funny. That's all inside stuff. Because you don't know that just by looking at somebody, right? You don't know. You don't know if they like cotton candy just like you do. Or you don't know if they like mint chocolate chip ice cream. You don't know if they like hot Cheetos. My young ones, how many people that you thought in your class or in your school you weren't going to be friends with, and at lunch, when you came with your lunch, you opened your lunchbox or that bag from the corner store and you pulled out hot Cheetos and they pulled out hot Cheetos and you're like, They like hot Cheetos too. Maybe I think I could get along with them. But when you looked at them, could you see that they liked hot Cheetos? Absolutely not. So you took out, what's the kind of candy? Oh, the Sour Patch Kids. I like Sour Patch Kids. I love them. But him, I just think he's just a mean guy, or he doesn't seem friendly, or I don't think I could hang out with him. Then you pull out your Sour Patch Kids, they pull out theirs, and you're like, oh, we both like Sour Patch Kids. Maybe I could get along with him. Couldn't tell that just by looking at him. So let that be a lesson, friends, my young ones, my older young ones, my adult ones. Let that be a lesson. You can't tell a book by its cover. You can't tell what someone's going to be like just by looking at them. Sometimes you just need to get to know them, no matter what they look like, where they come from, what they sound like. What's important is that we are all basically the same. We want our families to be safe. We want them to be loved. We want to be loved. We want to be happy. We want to be successful. What does that have to do with this stuff? What does it have to do with this? These clothes? Nothing. It's all in here. Okay? Now, my friends, this seems like good music for a mystery too. We gonna keep it, y'all. Who stole New Year's Eve? So, friends, apparently, Ice Eve is missing. We now know what the main mystery is here. Ice Eve is missing. Remember, Eve Henry and the Henry family moved from California. They now live in College Springs, Pennsylvania, because Professor Henry is working at the university trying to come up with gasoline, the first mystery. He needs a secret ingredient for gasoline, but we don't know what it's going to be. And Mr. Olivo, who also works at the university, does not think that he's ever going to find that mystery compound. And if he does, it might be volatile, make things go kablooey. Okay? So they don't really like each other. And Yasmin's dad, Mr. Pop, doesn't like Mr. Henry either, because he thinks it's just pie in the sky type stuff. All right. And there are mystery tips about something coming to the police station, and Alex's mom is investigating. For Eve's birthday, which is coming soon, which is on New Year's Day, she's having a birthday party on New Year's Eve, has given out invitations, but Yasmin is still upset with her about laughing at her at the 12 Days of Christmas gala party at the Jensens. So she's like, I don't want to go. Alex really wants her to come because they're both friends, okay? And Eve's parents had a surprise gift for her. Come to find out, her uncle, who also works for the moving company, is an ice sculptor and has made a huge ice sculpture of Eve on a surfboard with her hair blowing in the wind. And now that huge ice sculpture is missing. This is where we end up. We are now in chapter 9, friends. Let's find out if we'll find any more clues. And now Alex finds out that Eve had already heard about him and Yasmin's investigating for other mysteries. And she was hoping she'd be able to be a part of their investigation team, but wasn't expecting it would be a mystery that had something to do with her. This is where we are now, friends. Let's continue with chapter 9. The door from the kitchen opened, and Mrs. Henry brought out a plate with 4 muffins on it. I did some quick calculations. If Eve had already had one, or if she was too upset to eat, I could score as many as 3. And I am a growing boy. We didn't talk about the case while we ate. Instead, Eve told me about her school in California, where the kids wear flip flops and cut off pajama bottoms all year long. And even some white kids have dreadlocks. It was obvious Eve thought California was pretty great. The only bad part was her dad had to work all the time. She had hoped maybe that would change when they moved to Pennsylvania, but so far it hadn't. Some nights, like last night, he worked all night in his new lab. Mrs. Henry came out of the kitchen and took the muffin plate. My mom was behind her. "What do you say we go outside and look for some physical evidence?" Mom said. "I'm betting our thief left tracks." Fortified by muffins, I only got 2. Eve turned out to have a healthy appetite. We put coats on and went outside. Marshmallow came too. It was light by now, and the clouds had cleared away. On the spot where Ice Eve had stood on her skateboard yesterday, it was a skateboard, excuse me, was a patch of snow packed into a neat square of ice. Same as he had with the statue. Marshmallow sniffed around it and whined. "Still doesn't smell right. I don't like it." There weren't any footprints, probably because the snow was too icy and hard to make them. But we did follow 2 shallow parallel grooves from the neat square on the sidewalk. Next to the curb, the grooves became a confused jumble of frozen mud. "Someone put Ice Eve on a hand truck, it looks like," Mom said, "and then hauled her across the yard, manhandled her into a waiting truck. There was no snow on the street, so we couldn't see tire tracks. Mom said I can have Officer Crishells come out with one of the lab guys to check for residue from vehicle tires. That might tell us more." Mrs. Henry looked surprised. "You want to call forensics? Isn't this just a prank?" Mom shrugged. "The ice sculpture was worth enough money that stealing it counts as a felony. But if you don't want to follow up, the district attorney probably won't either. The theft of a single ice sculpture is upsetting, but it doesn't threaten the public." "It's your present that was stolen, Eve," Mrs. Henry said. "What do you think?" Eve shook her head. "I don't want to make a big deal out of it. By the time we find it, it'll be a bucket of water." On the other hand, she looked at me. "Maybe Alex and I could do some detecting. I mean, if you're not busy, Alex. I never did detecting before." I was surprised to realize I liked this idea. Detecting is a lot of work, but vacation had gone on long enough that I was actually bored. "Okay," I said, but then I had a horrible thought. Yasmin would kill me if Eve and I worked together, unless maybe the 3 of us could do it. Maybe if they worked together, Eve and Yasmin would get to be friends. It was still early, and Eve still had to get dressed. We decided to meet at my house in an hour to make a plan. Meanwhile, I had a plan of my own. And 2 minutes later, I was standing on the Pop's front porch. I put my finger on the doorbell and paused. Yasmin couldn't possibly be mad at me anymore, right? Plus, she loves detecting. When she found out Ice Eve was missing, she'd totally want to investigate. I took a breath and pressed the bell. Right away, like she'd been waiting on the other side, Yasmin opened the door. Hi, bud, I smiled. How you doing? Yasmin didn't smile back. Instead, she tilted her head to one side, folded her arms across her chest, and said, Yes. I kept smiling. So, I guess you're still mad, right? Yasmin narrowed her eyes. What do you think? Well, okay, anyway, that's too bad because. And I explained about Ice Eve. Yasmin listened closely, then stepped over the threshold so she could look down the street at Henry's yard. Was I imagining it? Or did a smile flicker on her face when she saw that Ice Eve was gone? Something crazy crossed my mind. Could Yasmin have had anything to do with it? Solving mysteries had taught both of us how bad guys operate. If Yasmin wanted to steal something, she totally knew how. The human brain is a wonderful thing because somehow I managed to think these thoughts and talk at the same time. Finally, I got to the point. So, Yasmin, could you help us, please? Except for my mom, you're the best detective on Chickadee Court. It was pretty obvious I was buttering her up, but sometimes she falls for it. Who is us? She said. Even me, I said right away. I knew I had made a mistake. No, she said, I'm busy. Goodbye, Alex. She started to close the door, but I stuck my foot between it and the jamb. That's an old detecting trick. What are you so busy with? Practicing for choir auditions, Yasmin said. Then she startled me by opening her mouth and singing, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. I gritted my teeth, but resisted the urge to cover my ears. For somewhere in the house, Jeremiah called, Yasmin, you promised. Enough with the la la la. Yasmin closed her mouth and frowned. That was great, I lied. You're definitely improving. Eve won't mind if you want to practice while we investigate. It'll be like a whole new thing, the singing detective. What do you think? I think not, Yasmin said. Besides, I'm not sure there really is a mystery. Eve probably hid the statue herself, or perhaps she poured boiling water on top to melt it. Why would she do that? To get attention, Yasmin said. She's that kind of girl. She planned her own party, didn't she? With her mom, I said. And anyway, she had to. She doesn't know anybody here yet. Yasmin sighed. I should have known you'd defend her. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm reading a really great book, The Hound of the Baskervilles. Ever heard of it? I shook my head. It's a Sherlock Holmes book, she said, and I'm just at the part where I find out who did it. Bye, Alex. In this time, she succeeded in closing the door. I was on the sidewalk walking home when I saw Mom pulling the car out of our driveway. Hey, I motioned for her to roll down the window. It's your day off. You're not going to work, are you? Kind of an emergency, she said. Call you later. I might need your help. Love you, honey. And she drove away. Dad, I called when I got inside. What's Mom's big emergency anyway? There was no answer, and I remembered it was Saturday, which meant Dad was probably grocery shopping. I hung up my coat and sat down on the floor to unvelcro my boots. Meanwhile, Luau padded in from the den, head butted my arm, and purred to tell me how very much he'd missed me. Uh-huh. I kicked off my boots and scratched behind his ears. What is it you really want? Luau sat back, raised his paw to do a quick face wash, and then looked me in the eye. In your defense, it was a busy morning. Oh, shoot. Sorry, buddy. Come on. I got to my feet and headed for the basement, where I poured Luau a bowl of breakfast. Luau didn't stop to a thank you, but when he took his first bite, he purred, which was good enough. Then I remembered I hadn't eaten breakfast yet myself, unless you count a couple of carrot muffins. And I hadn't brushed my teeth or washed my face or made my bed either. I went upstairs, cleaned up, and was just tugging my bedspread flat when the doorbell rang. Had it been an hour already? I hoped the day would settle down soon. It, I didn't think I could continue to live at this pace. Eve was wearing orange pants and a pale green turtleneck and a pink jacket. There were stars on the pink jacket. Her snow boots were purple, and her ear warmers matched her snow boots. Most of my friends have dark winter coats, and black snow boots, so Eve looked kind of eye-popping. I'm ready for detecting, and I've got this idea too. If it's okay with you, that is. If it's okay with you, that is. Did she really say that? Already I could tell detecting with Eve was going to be different than detecting with Yasmin. I'm sure your idea is great, I said. Come on in for a sec while I put on my coat. Then we can go. Where are we going? Eve asked. Bubs, I said. Eve's eyes got big. You mean Bubs a suspect? Do we get to interrogate him? Not exactly, I said. We're going to Bubs because minestrone soup makes a tasty and nutritious breakfast. Also, he's the best one to give you the first lesson in detecting. Chapter 11. Bub lives on the corner of Chickadee Court and Groundhog. And it's not only people who like to hang out with him. Luau does too. Done with breakfast, my cat followed Eve and me down the sidewalk with his orange tail flying like a flag. As we walked, Eve explained her idea. She had made a lost ice sculpture flyer on her computer, and she thought we should post it all over the neighborhood. Only our printer's not hooked up yet, she said, so I can't make copies. We could use our printer, but it's slow, I said. How about if we ask Sophie to print them out? Only if we do, she's going to want to help us with detecting. That's okay with me, Eve said. We passed the Ryans' house, partridge in a pear tree, then turned into Bub's driveway, where a yellow Al's Delivery Service van was already parked. Come on in, Bub called when he heard us on the steps. Soup's on and the coffee's hot. When you walk into Bub's house, the hallway's in front and the living room's on the right. Inside the living room are a recliner and a sofa, besides a dining table with 6 chairs around it. Beyond that is the kitchen, where the soup is. The drill is Bub makes soup every morning, then everyone who stops by can serve himself or herself from the pot on the stove. Luau immediately jumped into his usual spot on the recliner, circled twice, and made himself comfortable. The recliner faces the TV, which was on with the sound on mute. Luau likes old black and white movies, especially ones with cat food commercials. The one on the TV now had cowboys. Bub was sitting at the head of the table with Al and a surprise guest, Sophie Sikora herself. In front of her on the table was a plastic box and a bunch of teensy parts and pieces. I had to look twice to realize they used to be a calculator. The box was so big and clunky looking. It must have dated from Jurassic times. Did I mention Sophie is some kind of electronics genius? She can fix anything: doorbells, baby monitors, remote controls. Sometimes this comes in handy when we're detecting. Everybody said hi, and Bub offered us minestrone. Of course, I said totally to the soup, but first I explained how Ice Eve was missing. Your birthday present? Al looked at Eve. That's a shame. Hard to imagine going to the trouble of stealing it. She's one heavy girl. I looked at Bub and Sophie. You didn't hear anything last night, did you? We figure she must have disappeared between 11 and about 6 in the morning. Bub thought he'd heard a car sometime in the night, but he hadn't looked at the clock. Sophie hadn't heard anything. But I'm a sound sleeper, she added. So we're detecting again, are you? Bub asked me. Where's Yasmin? We're going to end there. Well, my friends, at first, Eve didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but she saw that this was an opportunity to do some detecting. And so far, they can tell, at least Alex's mom can tell, that a hand truck took Ice Eve. But then when it got to the mud and the street that had no snow, there was no way to tell where they took it, if it was a car, if it was a truck, if they just used the hand truck. Nobody knows. Also, unfortunately, Alex could not get Yasmin to agree yet to join in the detecting. I wonder how upset she will be if she finds out that Sophie Sakura and Bub are also helping in the detecting, of which she is not a part of. And Miss Yasmin, it is your own fault because you could be a part of it, but she's upset. I guess we'll find out why she's so upset. I have my suspicions. Remember, Alex's dad has his suspicions too, but Alex was like, please don't go all parenting on me, Dad. And so he didn't. But we need to find out who took Ice Eve and why Alex's mother had to run to work on her day off. And she told Alex she may need his help on what it was she had to go to work for. The mystery still continues with what's going on at the police station. Does it have something to do with the disappearance of Ice Eve? Does it have something to do with the festival where there will be a lot of other ice sculptures? Does it have something to do with the secret tips that have been coming in to the police station? Does it have something to do with Professor Henry's research or Grassoline? There's a lot of questions, friends. There's already a lot of questions, but it is time for us to go. Can you believe it? Always time for us to go by the time we get to the questions. And the story was starting to get good, so I had to keep looking at the time. It happens, especially with the mystery books. So, my friends, on this fabulous Friday, it is the weekend. Hope that you all have a great and safe weekend, that maybe you can find some way to keep Dr. King's dream alive. Make someone feel like they are wanted, that they are loved, that they matter, and that you care about what's in here and not just what you see. And maybe, just maybe, on your block, help a neighbor. That's another way you can keep his dream alive. Well, with all of that being said, my friends, thank you so much for being here with me today on Miss Hope's Reading Hour, and I will see you right back here on a Marvelous Monday, which will be the actual observance of his birthday. Okay? I'll see you right back here on Marvelous Monday on Miss Hope's Reading Hour. Until then, my friends, I will see you next time.